Alright, well, I was thinking about talking about current issues, and what I've come to understand is that there is no such thing as a current issue. There's only the fact that the system is breaking down, and how is that currently happening? But more or less, the problem at hand is tied to drug prohibition, in my point of view. Not that every single thing in our justice system is associated with drug prohibition, but the fact that more than half of what goes on in terms of incarcerating people is, or about half of that, does have to do with drugs. And that does undermine the rule of law in the criminal justice system, considering the fact that there's many criminal elements to the government, and you want to reduce that. The rule of law is the most important thing, so just taking these different elements into consideration. What is the root cause of that? Is central banking. Okay. Why? Is because that's where the money, disguise comes in, is what I would call it. Because you have enough secrecy in those organizations to run the entire drug war, money laundering, without any real, oversight. And so here's the thing: they do it, and it's just known. Well, they're moving so much money around in these banks. The whole entire concept of a central bank in and of itself is designed to destroy the economy for the benefit of people in the banking industry. And the reason why is because obviously they, would prefer for it to be run by them as opposed to Congress, which whenever you do this, that results in, of course, all kinds of problems. That is the very first problem at hand. That has been a problem for 100 years now. Why is that? Well, that is because they will decide everything and anything that has to do with anything that goes on in this country, as long as they are in control of the money supply. They first of all don't need to be in control of the money supply. Second of all, there needs to be a gold standard. That isn't going to happen unless probably we get rid of a central bank. However, even if we were to get a gold standard with a central bank, that would be, either way, probably the only way to protect our currency from imploding, from what I understand. And this is what I've been learning, and of course, I can see that some people think it's sustainable. However, even Alan Greenspan at one point wrote that there is only one way to protect against confiscation, and that was with a commodity standard. I believe it's the only way. However, when you have a central bank in control of the money, you're never going to have that. You're never going to have that expressed by anything in your society that has to do with well, the way that the powers that be communicate with you. You know, you're not ever going to hear about these values being expressed openly, and I think that's just pretty much the norm for countries around the world. However, and I don't think that it's really scary or anything for it not to be that way. You know, it's just one of the consequences. You know, and that's just one of those things that people kind of get a little bit too wrapped up into sometimes. But either way, it still is. It's still just one of those things that happens. However, the true consequence of that isn't that people don't know as much as the fact that it's just happening. Some people argue that people have the right to be ignorant, and I don't care. You know, I don't. To me, that's neither here nor there. That would be a democracy versus a republic, and most people will tell you we live in a democracy. Well, to be exact, the founders believed that a democracy was intrinsically flawed and would result in an imploding society. So I think that to be fair, you know, that wasn't their goal. Wasn't to create a democracy, but however, that would be to basically say, okay, like this, your rights are separate from your knowledge base, and I think that's true as well. So it just doesn't, to me, get into the point of what I'm saying is that these people are taking over. They're taking control of the country through the currency. It isn't constitutional per se. If you listen to what most of the founders believed was where the power of coinage needed to be, at least the most influential ones in my opinion. However, you're going to hear these types of arguments concerning a central bank, regardless of what you think. A central bank is not, it was not advised by Thomas Jefferson. I don't think that, from what I understand, the Constitution made gold the only legal source of coins and silver. But I was listening to an economist the other day say that the best way would be to have the market decide what would be the best commodity, and historically it's always been gold. Well, regardless, historically speaking, current countries have always adapted a fiat currency, which has always resulted in inflation. During war. I think that inflation is pretty typical, dating back thousands of years. And that's exactly what we're going through right now. And you know, what it is that basically the way that it works, from what I understand, is that the banks lower their interest rates artificially. And I've heard some economists say that basically what they do is they put up more reserves, and that excess in the amount will result in the interest rate. The market will naturally drop the interest rate. Uh, However, from what I'm reading, they're basically saying that the interest rate was set from 5% to 1%, and that it was done completely artificially. Regardless of whether or not it's done one way or the other, what is known is that they definitely loan banks money at lowered amounts of money through the Federal Reserve System. That results in banks making bad decisions. Businesses go through a boom-bust cycle, and then as a result, inflation kicks in, and then things happen like what happened today. I turned on the television, and there was a guy. He said, "We're going to have a committee on whether or not fuel inflation is related to." Or find out what it is, what it's related to, because they need to get that addressed and fix it. Well, the thing about fuel is that that's a commodity, and that will typically go up due to inflation a lot faster than what you'll find in other commodities, because it's such a base commodity to the economy. The way that cars get around from here to there with the gas, and there you go. So that's just another result of inflation, and the people who really win out as a result of this inflation is banks. They win out big time, and another thing is that they print so much money, and they have this fractional reserve banking system, and so much money is getting printed up and sent around to different banks, and there's so much inflation. I just wonder, I just know that this has got to help cover up so much of this drug prohibition type stuff. And if I had to really guess, I'd guess that the drug prohibition thing is a way to get people, either to break down the rule of law, or create some kind of distraction like they do with war. And that's what I've heard, is that that's what they actually do. They create like a paper tiger, everybody's got to chase it. It makes them feel more secure. So the thing about it is that at the end of the day, they do it through the money supply. The war on drugs is a fraud. And I'm going to post some statistics in the description here, and I want you to look at these things, because there's statistics from MSNBC on alcohol prohibition, for murder, all kinds of different things that have gone up. You see the same thing if you'll go through Department of Justice. There will be numbers from the Department of Justice showing how the homicide rate has gone up with drug prohibition, the same way that it went up with alcohol prohibition. When it was done away with, the homicide rate slowly went down. They went back up with the drug prohibition. So here's the reason why. You can never eradicate the drugs. no matter how many people you put in prison, it's always going to be there. The only thing that you can do is cause artificial scarcity, which instead has resulted in a black market culture, which over time has built and developed itself. And as a result, there's been more drug use. The the gangs are definitely a problem. That's always going to be a problem. Regardless of the drug use, but the drug use goes up. Basically, this is how it works. The demand never goes away, so it's always going to be there. So basically, what happens is the risk goes up. People will exchange in this market. The only way for them to defend against each other without legal law enforcement or legal enforcement of property back and forth is with just I mean, it basically comes down to very few things. There's not very much recourse. You can go after the guy with the weapon and perform a strong arm robbery. The only other option you have at that point, you don't have anywhere to incarcerate the guy, right, for theft and take him to a jail. You can't do that. You're already performing robbery on top of whatever you were doing with the drugs, which was considered illegal as well. And all in really a course of doing business that's not smiled upon by the community, but definitely not within their means or stretch of the imagination to ever end, or to do what they feasibly think they're doing. Regardless, is that you're basically doing what you feel like you have to do at that point, and that's it. There's nothing else for you to do but that, and so you have a lot of violence, and people out there, they get into killing each other, and the more you pour on top of it, the worse the violence gets, especially in some of these countries that have no real architecture to their strength or integrity to their infrastructure is what I meant to say. And they've got a lot of violence and a lot of problems in places like Mexico right now because of how bad it's getting out of control. And I don't know what the death count is right now in the United States. I believe it's somewhere near 10,000 or probably more. But I mean, I know that there's a lot of people out there shooting and killing each other in the United States right now. It's getting used as an excuse for gun control, which is what's used a lot of times as a lead up for historically speaking, it's caused mass exterminations, or been used as a mean to implement extermination of people. So, whew, man, oh man. That's scary. That's scary stuff. And if you really think about it, what you really need to consider is not giving the government that excuse to take your guns away from you. Not leaving them that open route, because they're disgusting and they will do it. So anyways, I'm going to leave you with the statistics in the description for drug prohibition.